My husband filed for divorce, and my 7-year-old daughter asked the judge, "Your Honor, may I show you something MOM doesn't know about?" The judge nodded in agreement. When the video started playing, the entire courtroom froze in dead silence. Can you imagine standing in a cold courtroom, your entire life crumbling, your own husband accusing you of being a terrible mother and wife, trying to take everything from you? But then, right when you think you've lost it all, your little girl, just 7 years old, does something so unexpected, so unbelievably brave, that it rips through the silence and changes everything. Because that's exactly what happened to me. My morning had started like any other, lost in the quiet routine of our home. I was in the kitchen since dawn, the gentle hum of the washing machine a constant companion. I moved like a ghost, a shadow in my own house, always careful not to disturb him. My husband, Tmain, emerged at 6 a.m., perfectly pressed, looking like he'd stepped straight out of a magazine. I'd have his hot black coffee and steaming breakfast ready on the table the moment he appeared. He'd just take it, without a glance, without a word. "Coffee's a bit bitter today," he'd grumble, his eyes glued to his phone. "I'm so sorry, honey," I'd whisper, my voice tiny. I thought I measured it right this time. He wouldn't answer. Just push his plate away after a few bites, the silence between us so cold it could freeze the steam off his coffee. When was the last time we laughed at breakfast? I'd wonder. Years, probably, since his business trips got longer and his late nights became the norm. "Is Zaria up?" he'd finally ask, still not looking at me. "Yes, honey. She's showering. She'll be down soon." And then, the sound I lived for, Zaria, my beautiful 7-year-old daughter, bounding down the stairs in her crisp school uniform, a burst of sunshine in that dim house. "Good morning, Mommy and Daddy." She'd kiss me, then head for him. He'd finally put his phone down, force a faint smile. "Good morning, Princess. Finish your food. Daddy will take you to school." "Wow, I'm going with Daddy," she'd squeal. I'd sigh, a small, private exhalation of relief. At least for Zaria, he'd pretend. This brief breakfast was our only family time. As soon as she finished, he'd be up, grab his briefcase, a quick kiss on her forehead, and out the door. He'd walk past me like I was invisible. No goodbye, no touch, not even a look. Just the roar of his luxury car driving away, leaving me alone in the vast emptiness of our large house. I'd spend the rest of the morning on autopilot, clearing, washing, tidying, always striving for perfect. Maybe if the house is clean enough, if the food is delicious enough, if I'm quiet enough, the old Tmain will come back. But the old Tmain had been gone for a very long time. My favorite part of the day was picking Zaria up from school. I loved listening to her chatter about her friends, her art class, her lunchbox. "Mommy, I got 5 gold stars today." "I answered the question right," she chirped, holding my hand. "Wow, my daughter is so smart." I'd genuinely congratulate her, pinching her little nose. But that day, when we got home, as I helped Zaria take off her shoes, I heard the rumble of a motorcycle. A courier shouted my name. "Niella, a package for you." My heart did a little flutter of unease. I hadn't ordered anything. I opened the door to a thick brown envelope. No sender name, just a law firm's logo. My heart started to beat too fast. "Who is it, Mommy?" Zaria asked, looking up at me. "I don't know, Princess. Probably just junk mail. Go change, and we'll have lunch." I tried to keep my voice steady. Once Zaria was in her room, I collapsed onto the sofa. My hands trembled as I tore open the envelope. A thick stack of papers. The first sentence. I gasped for air. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My world stopped. My ears rang. I reread the words, praying my eyes had played a trick. Plaintiff, Tmain. Defendant, Nala. Reason for suit. The wife has totally failed in the fulfillment of her marital duties. Failed. I felt sick to my stomach. My entire life had been dedicated to this house, to him. I'd given up my career at his request. I'd raised Zaria. I made sure his shirts were spotless. What did he mean, failed? I kept reading. My vision blurred as I scanned his demands. They were cruel. He wasn't just asking for a divorce. He wanted full custody of Zaria, claiming I was emotionally unstable, incapable of raising our child. And the most devastating blow, he demanded all our marital assets, including the house, arguing I hadn't contributed financially, that everything was solely his effort. I sank to the cold hardwood floor, the papers scattered around me. So this was why he'd been so cold. This had been his plan, hatched in secret, behind my back. The front door opened. Tmain, home unusually early. He stood there, looking at me crumpled on the floor, then at the scattered papers. His expression was utterly cold, not a shred of guilt. Honey, what does this mean? My voice trembled, tears already welling up. He took off his shoes, loosened his tie. Didn't deny it, didn't explain. Just said, "It's exactly what you read. I don't want to live with you anymore, Nala. You have failed. As a wife, and as a mother. Failed." I wailed, disbelief choking me. "I've taken care of this house. I've raised Zaria." "Taken care of the house," he scoffed, pure disdain in his voice. "The only thing you've done is spend my money. Zaria needs a better mother, a competent one. Not someone who only knows how to cry and complain like you. But all the property, this house and Zaria. Honey, you can't take them from me." I started to scream hysterically. He crouched down, looked at me with a sharp, hateful stare I'd never seen before. "I can and I will. My lawyer has all the evidence gathered. You won't get anything, Nala. You'll leave this house without a single dollar." He stood up, smoothed his suit, glanced towards the stairs, making sure Zaria couldn't hear. And then he grinned, a chilling, venomous smile that froze my blood. "My lawyer says even your own daughter will testify in court about how incompetent you are as a mother." I froze in terror. My heart shattered into a million pieces. He didn't just want to divorce me, he wanted to destroy me. Completely. I didn't sleep that night. After that cruel confrontation, Tmain had retreated to the guest room and locked the door. I spent the night in Zaria's room, watching her peaceful face as she slept, my tears falling silently. How could he say Zaria would testify against me? She was everything. What had they told my little girl? That thought tormented me more than any accusation. The next morning, he acted like nothing had happened. Woke Zaria, prepared her uniform, took her to school. Didn't speak a word to me. When Zaria asked why my eyes were puffy, he'd said with chilling indifference, "Mommy isn't feeling very well, Princess." After they left, true terror set in. I had to fight. I couldn't give up Zaria. I grabbed my phone, searched for renowned divorce lawyers. But the harsh reality hit me hard. Lawyers needed money. A retainer. A consultation fee. I had no money. For years, Tmain had given me a strict monthly allowance, barely enough for groceries and Zaria's school. Nothing to save. My only hope was our joint account, the one I thought was our family emergency fund. With trembling hands, I opened the banking app. My heart hammered as I entered the password. When the balance appeared, my legs failed me. 0. It was $0. It couldn't be. There should have been hundreds of thousands there. I refreshed the screen, praying for a system error. But that cold, stark 0 stared back. I opened the transaction history. My eyes widened in horror. Over the last 6 months, Tmain had systematically withdrawn huge amounts, transferring them to an account I didn't know. The last withdrawal, just 3 days ago, had emptied the rest. He'd planned this. He wasn't just leaving. He deliberately crippled me financially, so I couldn't fight back. I cried in despair. How could I hire a lawyer without a single dollar? Then I remembered my wedding jewelry. I ran to my room, opened my jewelry box. Empty. Only a few imitation trinkets remained. He'd taken even my heirlooms. In my desperation, I remembered an old friend who worked at a legal aid agency. I called her, poured out my story between sobs. She felt pity, but couldn't do much, except. "His name is Attorney Abernathy," she said. "He has a small office, second floor of an old strip mall. Not an expensive lawyer, but he's honest and dedicated. Go see him. Explain your situation. Maybe he can help." I had no choice. With the last few dollars in my purse, I hailed a cab. Attorney Abernathy's office was exactly as she described. Small, modest, peeling paint on the building. He was a middle-aged black man with thick glasses and a calm demeanor. He listened patiently, taking notes, never interrupting. When I finished, he let out a long sigh. "Nala, this is going to be an uphill battle. Your husband has prepared all of this very thoroughly." He doesn't just want a divorce. He wants to destroy you. I know, attorney, I pleaded, my voice raw. But I don't care about the properties. I just want Zaria. Please help me. I don't have money now, but I will pay you. In installments. I will do anything. He looked at me for a moment. Let's leave the money issue for later, Nala. What's important now is we move fast. This lawsuit has already been filed. We have to prepare a response immediately. He left the room, returned with a folder full of photocopies. Your husband's lawyer is Attorney Cromwell. He's known for being sharp and not hesitating to use dirty tactics. He opened the folder. Let's see what evidence they've presented. My heart hammered. The first page, photographs. I went into shock. Photos of my kitchen, dirty dishes piled high. The living room, cluttered with Zaria's toys. Dirty laundry overflowing. But this is unfair. I protested. These are photos he took when I was sick. I had a high fever for 3 days, and Tmain didn't lift a finger to help. He took them on purpose. Attorney Abernathy's expression was grim. Nala, I'm afraid this is manipulated to make it look like you're a lazy person who doesn't maintain the house. He turned to the next pages. Credit card statements. A list of charges for luxury handbags, jewelry, expensive dinners, none of which I'd ever bought. That's not me. I didn't buy these things. Was it an additional card in your name? He asked. Yes, an additional one. Tmain managed it. He told me to use it if I needed to, but he took it often, saying his main card had exceeded the limit. Oh my God. He set me up. The world spun around me. Every small kindness from Tmain, it was all part of his evil plan. Then Attorney Abernathy stopped at a thick document near the end. And this is the most damaging thing, Nala. What is it, attorney? It's the testimony of an expert witness, a child psychologist. He handed me the report. I read it. Cold, clinical terms. It claimed a psychologist had conducted covert observations of my interactions with Zaria. The conclusion: I was emotionally unstable, neglected Zaria's needs, a detrimental mother. It recommended full custody for Tmain for Zaria's mental health. This makes no sense. When was this observation done? I never met a psychologist. My voice shook violently. According to this report, the observation was conducted in public places. The park, the mall, when you picked your daughter up from school, he explained, staring at me. That's crazy. Zaria always seemed happy with me. This is defamation. Who is this psychologist? He flipped the cover. Her name is Dr. Valencia. Here are all her credentials. She seems very professional and convincing. He looked at me seriously. Nala, do you know this woman? Valencia. I shook my head, bewildered. Tears began to fall again. No, attorney. I don't know her. I've never seen her in my life. Living under the same roof with the man who was planning to destroy me was a silent hell. Tmain hadn't left. He just moved to the guest room. Our once warm house felt like a frozen battlefield, emotional landmines hidden everywhere. I had to live with my enemy, see him every morning, pretend everything was normal in front of Zaria. He played his role perfectly for her. He became the best father in the world, coming home earlier than usual, something he hadn't done in months. He brought expensive gifts. One night, a huge box with a cartoon princess on it. "This is your new tablet, Zaria," he'd exclaimed, hugging her. "Much better than the old one. Better camera, and Daddy installed lots of games." Zaria's eyes shone. "Wow, thanks, Daddy." I, folding laundry in the living room, could only swallow hard, my heart aching. I knew what he was doing, buying her loyalty. I couldn't compete. I didn't have $1 to buy Zaria anything. "You see, Princess," Tmain had said, looking at me with a sneer while turning on the new tablet. "When you live with Daddy later, you'll be able to buy a new toy every week. Unlike someone who only knows how to fold clothes." My hands froze. A knot of rage tightened in my chest. I wanted to scream, to unleash every insult, but I couldn't in front of Zaria. If I got angry, it would only prove his accusation that I was emotionally unstable. So I just continued folding, head bowed, letting his poison fill the room. The terror continued daily. He systematically undermined my authority as a mother. If I made dinner, he'd come into the kitchen, taste it in front of Zaria and say, "Honey, the soup's a little salty again." "It's okay. Tomorrow we'll order takeout. If I sat to help Zaria with homework, he'd interrupt. Let me do it. The way Mommy teaches you is too complicated. You'll get confused. I felt myself shrinking, becoming more and more invisible in my own home. I even began to doubt myself. Did I really cook badly? Was I truly incapable of teaching my daughter? He played his role too well, making me seem inept. Zaria, caught in the middle, began to show signs of confusion. She clearly loved me, but she also adored the attention and gifts from her father. Sometimes she clung to me, seeking protection, but other times she seemed uncomfortable, especially after he'd whispered something to her. One night, I couldn't sleep. I crept into Zaria's room. She was sleeping deeply. On her desk was the new tablet Tmain had bought her. But as I leaned in to tuck her in, I saw something strange. Her small hand was clutching something under the pillow. Not her favorite teddy bear. My heart skipped a beat. It was Zaria's old tablet. The cheap one, screen cracked in several places. The one I always told her not to play with, fearing the glass pieces would hurt her. I frowned. Why did she still keep this broken tablet? Why hide it when the new one was on her desk? I didn't understand. I dismissed it as a child's emotional attachment to an old toy. I didn't know that broken tablet held a secret that was about to change everything. I went back to my room, my mind even more confused. The climax arrived a few days later. I was waiting for Zaria to come home from school. I'd promised to bake her favorite chocolate cake, but an hour after dismissal, she wasn't there. I called the school. They said Tmain had picked her up. My heart sank. He hadn't told me. I called him repeatedly. He didn't answer. 2 hours passed. 3. I was nearly out of my mind with worry, pacing, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't until 9 at night that I heard his car. Zaria entered, laughing, a huge bag from an amusement park in her hand. Behind her, Tmain walked calmly, a smirk on his face. Where have you been, honey? Why did you take Zaria without telling me? I was dying of worry. I shouted, my voice a mix of tears and rage. Daddy took me to Wonderland Park. Mommy. It was so much fun. Zaria exclaimed happily. Tmain looked at me coldly. So what? I'm her father. I have the right to take my own daughter. Besides, you weren't doing anything at home. But you should have told me. So you could ruin our fun with your drama. That's when I smelled it. A woman's perfume. Soft, but unfamiliar. Permeating his shirt. Not mine. Not his cologne. Honey, you! He followed my gaze. He knew I'd smelled it. He didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled. He waited for Zaria to run to her room to put away her new toys. Alone, he approached me, his face close, his voice a low, venomous hiss. Did you notice? Did you really think I was going to live forever with a woman as boring as you? You are nothing compared to her. I took a step back, gasping for air. There was another woman. All of this, all the accusations, it was just an attempt to get rid of me, to be with her. Who is she? I whispered. None of your business. She's a successful, intelligent woman who knows how to please a man unlike you. That night, Zaria came to my room. Mommy, why are you crying? I quickly wiped my tears. I'm okay, princess. My head just hurts a little. Zaria looked at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. Are you really sick, Mommy? Daddy says that since you are sick, you are often sad and angry. Daddy said that if I go live with him later, Mommy will be able to rest and get better. My heart shattered. He'd been injecting poison into my little girl's mind. He'd manipulated Zaria into believing it was an act of kindness for her to leave my side, because her mother was sick. I hugged Zaria tight. Zaria, listen to me. I am not sick. I just love you so much. I promise I won't get angry anymore. But the damage was done. I saw the hesitation in her eyes. Tmain, listening from the doorway, only sneered in the darkness. He walked past me, still stunned, and gave a little tap on my shoulder, feigning sympathy. Enjoy your time, he mocked, his voice a low whisper in my ear. Soon, she won't even want to call you Mom. The mediation hearing was a cruel joke. Attorney Abernathy, calm and composed, started. Tmain, Nala doesn't ask for much. She only wants custody of Zaria, or at least shared custody. Regarding property, we can talk. Attorney Cromwell, Tmain's expensive, well-dressed lawyer, cut him off. There is nothing to talk about, he said harshly, slamming a file on the table. Our client's position is clear. Nala is the failed party. It has been proven she failed in maintaining the home and raising the child. Our client demands full custody for Zaria's future. Tmain sat beside him with a blank face, playing the victim. I only want the best for my daughter, he said with fake sadness. I trembled. Attorney Cromwell chuckled. Nala, if you keep insisting, we'll take this to trial. And I assure you, all the evidence we have will humiliate you. The photos, the credit card statements, the expert testimony. You'd better sign this agreement. Our client is being benevolent by allowing you to leave the house without any countersuit. Leave my house with nothing, and without Zaria. Are you crazy? I screamed. The mediator tried to intervene, but Tmain and his lawyer were unyielding. Mediation broke down. Attorney Abernathy patted my shoulder. Stay strong, Nala. The real fight begins now. The first day of trial approached. I had a knot in my stomach. Attorney Abernathy reminded me to stay calm. The courtroom was cold, intimidating. Tmain sat opposite me, confident with Attorney Cromwell. The trial began. Attorney Cromwell spoke fluently, his voice loud and sure. He presented his version of facts. He showed the photos of the messy house, painting me as a lazy, dirty housewife. He showed the credit card statements, accusing me of being wasteful and financially irresponsible. Your Honor, he said dramatically, while my client, Tmain, worked hard to earn money, his wife was at home wasting it and neglecting her daughter in her home. I wanted to scream that it was all a lie, that he'd set me up, that he'd used the card, that he'd taken the photos on purpose when I was sick. But I could only clasp my hands under the table. Attorney Abernathy stopped me with a reassuring look. When it was his turn, he tried to refute. He explained the photos were taken out of context, that the credit card statements had been used by Tmain himself. But his argument sounded weak. It was my word against the physical evidence presented by Attorney Cromwell. The judge took notes, his expression unreadable. Then came the moment I feared most. The plaintiff calls his expert witness, Attorney Cromwell announced. Dr. Valencia, child psychologist. The courtroom door opened. A woman entered. I held my breath. She was beautiful, elegant. Hair neatly pulled back. Professional blazer, confident stride. She didn't look evil. She looked convincing. As she took her oath, I smelled it. The same perfume. The same fragrance that permeated Tmain's shirt that night. My heart stopped. It was her, Tmain's mistress, and she was posing as a child psychologist. Valencia sat in the witness box. She spoke calmly, her diction clear, using psychological terms that sounded professional and impressive. Yes, Your Honor, she began, answering Attorney Cromwell's questions. I conducted observations of the natural behavior of Mrs. Niala and her daughter Zaria over the last 3 months. And what were your findings, Doctor? Valencia opened her notes. My findings were very concerning. I found a pattern of behavior in Mrs. Niala that tends to be inconsistent and emotionally volatile. There are signs of significant emotional distress. She began to detail the lies, one by one, turning facts into deadly weapons. First observation. At a shopping mall, Mrs. Niala pulled Zaria forcefully, speaking to her loudly, which made Zaria cry in fear in front of people. This shows a low capacity for emotional regulation. I closed my eyes. I remember that day. Zaria had almost thrown herself toward the wrong escalator. I had shouted and pulled her back in shock. Zaria, be careful. I wasn't angry. I was terrified she'd get hurt, but Valencia had turned it into verbal abuse. Second observation. In a park, Valencia continued, Mrs. Niala seemed to be more absorbed in her phone, ignoring Zaria, who was playing alone. When Zaria fell, Mrs. Niala didn't notice immediately. When she did, her reaction was exaggerated and tended toward hysteria, which further traumatized Zaria about the fall. Another lie. I remembered I was texting about the grocery list Tmain had asked for. Zaria tripped. I got genuinely scared. I ran immediately, hugged and consoled her. My reaction was that of a concerned mother, not a hysterical one. My conclusion, Valencia said, staring at the judge with a steady voice, is that Mrs. Niala does not have the stable emotional capacity to raise a 7-year-old girl. There are strong signs of parentification syndrome, where Mrs. Nyala subconsciously projects her own unhappiness and emotional problems onto the child. For Zaria's mental health, I strongly recommend full custody for the father, Mr. Tmain, who is the more stable figure. The room fell silent. Her testimony was powerful, scientific, destructive. I cried silently. "It's a lie," I whispered to Attorney Abernathy. "It's all a lie. She is Tmain's mistress. It's her." "Calm down, Nala," he replied tensely. "Don't react. That's what they want." Attorney Abernathy stood for cross-examination. He tried. "Dr. Valencia, are you sure you can make such a serious diagnosis based solely on distant observations?" Valencia smiled slightly. "On the contrary, counselor, natural observations without the subject being aware are the most accurate. There is no manipulation. It is pure, real behavior. You were paid by Mr. Tmain for this testimony, isn't that right?" "I was paid for my professional services, counselor, not for my conclusions. My conclusions are objective and based on data from the field," she retorted cleverly. Attorney Abernathy was at a dead end. She had dodged too well, covered all the holes. The trial adjourned. I left the room, my legs shaking. I felt destroyed. I saw Tmain smiling slightly, nodding to Valencia with a look of satisfaction. In the lobby, I leaned against the wall and sobbed. "We lost, attorney. We lost. They have everything." He remained silent for a moment. Then he stared at Tmain and Valencia, walking together in the distance, discreetly separated, but not entirely far apart. "Not yet, Nala," he said in a low voice, eyes narrowed. "I know something is wrong. The way she looks at him when she thinks no one sees her, that's not how a professional psychologist looks at a client." He turned to me. "We have to find out who she really is." A few days before the next hearing, Attorney Abernathy called me to his office. His face looked tired. The stack of papers on his desk looked thicker. "Nala," I tried to trace the woman's background. "The result is different from what we expected." My heart raced. "What do you mean, attorney?" "Her credentials are clean." "Two clean sides," he said, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "She's registered with the Psychological Association. She has a registered practice clinic. All the documentation is perfect. Either she's a real psychologist Tmain hired to lie for money, or Tmain forged this entire identity very cleanly. The truth is, we cannot attack her by accusing her of being a fake psychologist. The court would dismiss our claim immediately. The brief hope I'd held on to vanished instantly. So we can't prove she's lying? No, we simply can't prove she isn't a psychologist. The only way is to refute her testimony. And that means you have to testify, Nala." He looked at me seriously. "You have to tell your whole side of a story. About the photos, about the credit cards, about Tmain's behavior. And most importantly, you must not get emotionally upset. Attorney Cromwell will definitely try to provoke you. He will want you to look hysterical in front of the judge, exactly as Valencia described you." I nodded silently. "I will do it, attorney. I will try." The day arrived. It was my turn on the witness stand. After being sworn in, Attorney Abernathy began with gentle questions, guiding me to tell my life as a housewife. I explained, my voice attempting to remain as calm as possible, how I'd left my job for Zaria, described my routine from dawn till late at night. "About the photos of the messy house, Nala, can you explain the context?" he asked. "Yes, attorney. Those photos were taken by Tmain about 2 months ago. I was severely ill with a high fever for 3 days. I could barely get out of bed. I asked Tmain to take care of the household, but he said he was too busy with work, so the house got very messy. I didn't have the energy to clean. And about the credit card statements? It was an additional card in my name, but Tmain had it more frequently. He said his main card often reached the limit with business matters. I believed him. I never bought those luxury bags, nor that jewelry. I didn't know about those charges until I saw them in the lawsuit documents. I said everything with honesty. I saw some people in the gallery whispering, some looked at me with sympathy. The judge remained silent, his face unreadable. Then came Attorney Cromwell's turn. The cunning lawyer stood up, smoothed his tie, and walked toward the witness stand with a sneer. "Nyala," he began in a sickly sweet tone. "So you mean to say that your husband, Mr. Tmain, who works hard and brings money home, set you up on purpose? Is that it?" I stammered. I didn't say that. I just said what happened. But that sounds like it. The husband takes photos of the dirty house. The husband uses the credit card. Everything is the husband's fault. It seems that you are not to blame for anything. Are you perfect? Of course not. I'm not perfect, but I'm not a failure. Not a failure? Attorney Cromwell scoffed with disdain. Nala, you said you were sick when those photos were taken. Do you have any medical report proving you were gravely ill for 3 days? I remained silent. I didn't go to the hospital. I just took medicine from the pharmacy. I thought I would recover, so there is no proof. Attorney Cromwell attacked quickly. It's just your word against real photographic evidence. Interesting. He moved to the credit cards. You say your husband used them, but the card is in your name. Did you ever inform the bank that the card was being misused? No. Did you ever reprimand your husband? No, you said nothing. Doesn't this prove you are negligent and financially irresponsible? Or does it mean you approved all the purchases? I trusted him. He was my husband. My voice rose. Blind trust, snapped Attorney Cromwell. A trust that ruined the family finances. And now you blame your husband? I am not blaming. He raised his hand, returned to his table, and picked up a large printed photo. He held it up for the judge and everyone to see. Your Honor, I request permission to present Exhibit P12. My eyes widened in horror. It was a photo of me, in my bedroom, a few weeks before the divorce papers arrived. Hair disheveled, crying and screaming. Mrs. Niala, can you explain this photo? He asked with a triumphant tone. I trembled violently. Tears began to well up again. Isn't this real proof of what Dr. Valencia said? Volatile emotions. Hysteria. Is this the face of a competent mother? You don't understand. I wailed. My tears were now pouring down. That night, Tmain had just come home. He called me a useless wife. He said I was a burden. He insulted me. He said I didn't deserve to be Zaria's mother. He provoked me. So you admit it? Attorney Cromwell attacked without giving me a breath. You admit you screamed hysterically? You admit you lost control. You are emotionally volatile. Exactly as Dr. Valencia described, right? No. I shouted. I stood up from my chair. He set me up. He took the photo of me in secret after hurting me. He is a devil. He is enough. The judge's gavel struck hard. Witness, calm down. Sit down. I sobbed, my shoulders shaking. I slumped back into my chair, destroyed. Everything destroyed. I had behaved exactly as Tmain and Attorney Cromwell wanted. I looked hysterical. I looked unstable. I looked the image of the failed mother they had fabricated. I looked toward Tmain. He had his head bowed, a fake grimace of sadness, as if hurt by my instability. Attorney Cromwell smiled smugly. The judge shook his head slowly. His expression was clear. He had already taken a side. That day's trial ended with total destruction for me. Attorney Abernathy tried to console me as we left, but I felt numb. It's over, attorney, I whispered weakly. That night was the longest of my life. The sentencing hearing was tomorrow. I knew I was going to lose. I was going to lose Zaria. I crept into her room. She was already asleep. Tmain wasn't home, probably celebrating his victory with Valencia. I sat at the foot of her bed, stroking her hair. My tears fell silently onto her cheek, and she stirred a little. Mommy! She opened her eyes, half asleep. Shift, go back to sleep, princess! I whispered, my voice raw from crying. I hugged her tight. Maybe this is the last hug as her full mother. I want you to know, whatever happens tomorrow, Mommy loves you very much. Always. Sensing my sadness, Zaria hugged me back, just as tightly. I love you too, Mommy. I slowly undid the hug. That's when I saw it again. The corner of the old, cracked tablet, sticking out from under Zaria's pillow. She was clutching it tightly, even in her sleep. I still couldn't understand why she was so obsessed with that broken thing. But that night, I was too destroyed to think deeper about it. I simply kissed my daughter's forehead and left to face the end of my world. The courtroom was colder than usual. The morning air was heavy, suffocating. I sat rigidly in my chair, eyes puffy and empty. I hadn't slept. Beside me, Attorney Abernathy stared ahead, a somber expression on his face. He knew he'd done everything possible, but we faced a giant wall. The atmosphere on the other side of the room was starkly different. Tmain looked fresh, confident in a new suit. He smiled occasionally, exchanged quiet jokes with Attorney Cromwell. Victory was before his eyes. In the gallery, I saw Valencia. She sat elegantly in a cream-colored dress, looking at me with a barely visible smile. The smile of the victor. The judge entered. The room fell silent. My heart hammered. In the matter of the divorce petition, registry number, family court case number, he began formally. Today's subject is the reading of the verdict, but before that, I request both parties present their closing arguments. Attorney Cromwell stood up first. He summarized his victory skillfully. Your Honor, he said loudly, during this trial, we have seen irrefutable evidence. The photographic proof showing Mrs. Niala's neglect of household tasks, the financial proof showing her irresponsibility, and most importantly, the testimony of the eminent child psychologist, Dr. Valencia, who objectively and scientifically presented the defendant's emotional instability. He pointed at me. We even witnessed Mrs. Niala's hysterical conduct in this courtroom during the last trial, which supports Dr. Valencia's diagnosis and is clearly recorded. He turned toward Tmain. On the other hand, we have Mr. Tmain, a capable father, financially successful, and above all, emotionally stable and genuinely concerned for his daughter's future. Your Honor, the choice here is very clear. It is not about punishing the wife, but about saving the child. For Zaria's best interest, I beg you to grant full custody to our client, Mr. Tmain, and approve his request for division of assets. Attorney Cromwell sat down with a smug smile. Now it was Attorney Abernathy's turn. He stood slowly, looked around the room. Your Honor, he began, his voice soft but firm. What we have witnessed here is not proof. It is character assassination, a very well-planned defamation. Photos can lie. One can take a photo of the best chef's kitchen in the world at the wrong moment and make it look dirty. Statements can be manipulated, especially when one party has total financial control and the trust of the other. And the expert testimony, the testimony of an expert who only observed from a distance and drew radical conclusions from a few fragments of incidents out of context, is that stronger than the deep maternal love a mother has accumulated over 7 years. Attorney Abernathy looked directly at Tmain. Your Honor, we are not saving a girl. We are witnessing a greedy husband try to get rid of his wife, steal her assets, and cruelly take away the only thing that is most precious to her, her daughter. Nala is a good mother. His voice trembled slightly with emotion. She is not perfect. No mother is. But she has dedicated her life to Zaria. Do not allow this well-woven defamation to destroy that bond. I beg you to judge with conscience. He sat down. The room was silent. His argument had been excellent, emotional, but I knew it wasn't enough. His argument was based on belief. Attorney Cromwell's argument was based on physical evidence and expert testimony. In the eyes of the law, the winner was already obvious. The judge cleared his throat, put on his glasses, and opened a thick file. This was the moment. Having reviewed all documents from both parties, heard all testimonies, and considered all evidence presented, he began with an expressionless tone. My heart shrank. The court notes that the plaintiff, Mr. Tmain, has been successful in presenting significant evidence. I lowered my head and closed my eyes. First, the visual evidence, that is, the photographs, demonstrated the negligence of the defendant, Mrs. Niala, in household management. Every sentence was a knife cut. Second, the financial evidence demonstrated a considerable spending imbalance on the credit card in the defendant's name. And most damaging, the judge said, his voice definitive, is the testimony of the expert witness, Dr. Valencia, regarding Mrs. Niala's emotional state. This testimony was unfortunately reinforced by the defendant's own conduct in the last trial, providing the court with a very troubling image of the psychological environment for the child's growth. I began to cry silently. It was over. Tmain looked at me, a slight, cruel smile of victory appearing at the corner of his mouth. Valencia behind him sat up straighter, ready to applaud. With all considerations mentioned above, and especially for the best interest and mental health of the minor, Zaria, the judge, raised his gavel, and I closed my eyes, ready to hear the sentence that would destroy my life. The court rules. Stop. The voice was small, but it cut through the silence. Sharp and clear. Everyone turned their heads in unison. In the slightly open door at the back of the room stood Zaria. Alone. Still in her school uniform. Obviously, she had snuck in. Tmain's face went from arrogance to shock and terror. Zaria, what are you doing here? Get out of here, he shouted in panic. Guard. Zaria. Sit down, princess, he tried again, his voice tense. But Zaria didn't move. She walked into the courtroom, her small steps echoing on the marble floor. She didn't look at me, astonished with my mouth open. She didn't look at her furious father. She looked directly at the judge. The room, which had been silent awaiting the sentence, was now frozen. The gavel, about to fall, stopped midair. The judge's eyes widened, looking at the little girl in the doorway. I turned around, my heart falling out of my chest. Zaria, I whispered in disbelief. What was she doing here? Who had brought her? Tmain's reaction was the fastest. His face, a moment before full of triumph, was now pale, bloodless. Pure terror in his eyes. Zaria, he yelled, his voice rising, stripped of all calm. What are you doing here? Get out of here. This isn't a playground. Guard. How can a child enter? Zaria shrank at her father's scream, but she didn't back down. Instead, she walked deeper into the room. Zaria, Daddy said, turn around and sit down. Tmain shouted again, now half standing. His lawyer, Attorney Cromwell, was also bewildered. He stood up, shouting at the judge, Your Honor, this is a procedural outrage. This trial is confidential. A minor should not be here and should not interrupt the proceeding. Order your staff to remove the child. I was still frozen, confused. Part of my mind shattered over the fact that Zaria was in this horrible place. The other part trembled with fear. What was Zaria going to say? Had Tmain succeeded in poisoning her completely? Would she tell the judge she preferred her father? The thought made me nauseous. Your Honor, out of consideration, Attorney Abernathy's voice rang out suddenly, stopping Attorney Cromwell. This child has come with an obvious purpose. This is about her future. We cannot ignore her. The judge raised his hand. His face was grave. Silence, everyone. His voice echoed, silencing their protests. Then his gaze turned to Zaria. His expression softened. Zaria approached slowly, her small steps echoing loudly. She stopped in the center, between the tables of the two lawyers. She looked directly at the judge. Your Honor, she said, her voice trembling, but clear to the whole room. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's okay, Princess, the judge said, his tone more paternal. Why are you here? Who brought you? I came alone. My Annie brought me, but I snuck in. I heard my daddy say, my mommy is bad. Tmain's eyes went wide. Zaria, watch your words. Silence, Mr. Tmain, shouted the judge. Let the child speak. I covered my mouth. Tears began to flow. Zaria swallowed as if gathering courage. She looked at the judge again, her pure, clear eyes showing sincerity. Daddy said my mommy is bad. Daddy said my mommy gets very angry. Daddy said my mommy can't take care of me. She continued, her voice shaking slightly. I closed my eyes. This was the end. Zaria was going to repeat all of Tmain's lies. But a sentence made me open my eyes. But can I show you something? Zaria looked at the judge with pleading eyes. Something my mommy doesn't know. That phrase hung in the air. Something my mommy doesn't know. I frowned. What did she mean? Attorney Cromwell jumped up again. Your Honor, this is absurd. A recording from a child cannot be used as evidence. This is an invasion of privacy, recorded without permission. That recording proves the lies of your expert witness, Attorney Cromwell, retorted Attorney Abernathy sharply. This is very intriguing. Enough arguing. The judge banged his gavel. His eyes, previously paternal, now shone intensely. He sensed there was a big lie. Clerk, help this child. Connect that device to the court monitors right now. No! Tmain screamed desperately. He gripped the edge of the table with white knuckles. I object, Your Honor. This is a setup. Your objection is noted, Mr. Tmain. Now sit down. Order, the judge commanded. A clerk approached Zaria, carefully took the cracked tablet. He found a cable, and moments later, The large monitor screens on the courtroom wall went black, then showed Zaria's tablet home screen. Tmain covered his face. Valencia behind him seemed to shake violently. Zaria, now standing next to the clerk, looked at the screen. She didn't look at me or Tmain. She was focused on her mission. This one, she pointed to a video file. The clerk clicked on it. A video thumbnail appeared. Go ahead, princess, the judge said. Play the video. Zaria stretched out her small index finger. She pressed the play button. The video started. The large monitor flickered. The shot was slightly shaky and tilted. The angle was low, as if recorded from behind something. A quiet laugh was heard. It's our living room, I whispered, recognizing the sofa and the large plant pot in the corner, where Zaria often hid playing hide-and-seek. The video seemed to have been taken from there. Then two figures enter the shot, Tmain and Valencia. Not Valencia in the professional blazer like in court, but Valencia in fine, comfortable loungewear. Her hair was down. Tmain entered, laughing, and immediately hugged Valencia from behind, kissing her on the neck. Oh my God! A muffled exclamation was heard throughout the room in unison. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. So the perfume, my suspicions, everything was true. The woman who gave false testimony to ruin me was the same one sleeping with my husband, in my house. On the other side, Attorney Cromwell stared at the monitor, his mouth agape. He turned to Tmain with a look of horror, as if saying, You never told me this. In the gallery, Valencia lowered her head, trying to hide her face. Then, their voices were heard clearly in the silence of the courtroom. Valencia's voice, Are you sure your plan will work? Your wife is so stupid. Tmain's voice, laughing with certainty. Stupid and submissive. She won't suspect anything. All the money has already been transferred to your account, baby. My money, my joint account, it had been transferred to her account. I felt my legs fail. Oh, God! Attorney Abernathy murmured beside me, his eyes fixed on the screen. The video continued. Tmain sat on the sofa, pulled Valencia onto his lap. Tmain's voice, Once the verdict comes out tomorrow, I will officially get custody of Zaria. We will sell this house from hell immediately and move to Switzerland, far away from her. Valencia's voice, coquettish, and Zaria seems very attached to her mother. This was the part that hurt me the most. I held my breath, waiting for his answer. Tmain's voice, disdainful. Oh, the kid is easy to handle. Just give her a new tablet, and she'll forget her mother. You will be her new mother. A smarter, more successful, and much sexier mother. Tmain kissed Valencia passionately in the video. Enough! Turn it off! Tmain screamed in rage. He jumped from his chair, trying to run toward the clerk's table to stop the video. Officers, restrain him, shouted the judge, his voice burning with anger. The two security guards guarding the door moved immediately. They overpowered Tmain before he could advance, bending his arms behind his back. Tmain twisted like an animal in a trap. Let me go. It's not true. It's manipulated, he screamed desperately. Silence him, ordered the judge. Continue the video. I want to see it to the end. The video continued playing, oblivious to the chaos. Now it was Valencia's turn to speak. Valencia's voice. I'm still a little worried. What about my testimony as a psychologist? What if Nala's lawyer refutes it with his observations? Tmain's voice, laughing again. I already prepared. I recorded her last week when she cried hysterically. Remember, I will provoke her again at the trial. I will insult her until she explodes. She will scream and cry in front of the judge. I sobbed. I remember my testimony, the photo, my screams. He set me up. Tmain's voice. Once she gets hysterical, your testimony will seem perfect. The judge will see for himself that she is an unstable, crazy woman. No one will believe her. They will believe Dr. Valencia, the professional. The video finally showed Tmain and Valencia toasting with wine glasses, laughing. The video ended. The screen went black. The room remained silent for a few seconds. The only thing heard was my sobbing and Tmain's panting breath under the guard's control. Everyone in the room, the judge, the clerks, the gallery, even Attorney Cromwell, stared at the black screen with horror. They had just witnessed a very well-planned evil conspiracy. Fraud, perjury, money laundering, and manipulation of the court. In the gallery, Some people began to turn their heads, looking for Valencia. "There she is! It's the woman!" someone shouted. Valencia realized she was completely exposed. In panic, she jumped from her seat and ran toward the back exit. Zaria, the little heroine who had been watching the video that just played, turned her head. She didn't look at Tmain, who was subdued. She looked at me. Her pure eyes met mine, which were filled with tears. The judge, his face red with rage, raised his gavel high. He didn't drop it in silence. He banged it hard on the desk. "Silence, everyone. The court resumes. Officers, close all exits. No one leaves. Arrest that woman, Dr. Valencia." Immediately, the room fell into controlled chaos. The bang of the furious judge's gavel was both an order and a release of a tension that had frozen everyone. The two security guards who had just subdued Tmain now dragged him to a chair. Tmain wasn't screaming anymore. He was simply gasping, his eyes frantic, his expensive suit soaked in sweat. He knew it was over. At the back door, another commotion. Valencia, in panic, couldn't open the large door the judge had just ordered closed. She pulled the handle and pushed in vain. A female officer intercepted her quickly. Valencia collapsed on the floor. Her professional mask had completely fallen. She was no longer the calm and convincing psychologist. She was just a scared woman, crying hysterically, exactly the image she had used in the photos to frame me. Karma had arrived, fast and cruel. "Bring her here," ordered the judge with a cold, unforgiving voice. The officers dragged the sobbing Valencia to the front and sat her in the witness stand, which now felt like the defendant's bench. Across the room, Tmain's lawyer, Attorney Cromwell, looked like a melting wax doll. His face was pale, his tie crooked. He no longer looked at the judge. He stared at the stack of papers piled in front of him without an answer. His career and reputation had been destroyed in an instant by a video from a child's broken tablet. He knew he was implicated. He might not have known about the affair, but he knew about the manipulated photo evidence and the testimony prepared to frame me. I was still sitting, trembling. I watched the scene before my eyes like it was a movie. My sobs had calmed, replaced by a frozen shock. Beside me, Attorney Abernathy gave me a gentle pat on the back, but his eyes stared fixedly at the judge, ready for the final blow. Zaria stood silently next to the clerk. She was the center of calm in the storm. She only watched me, as if making sure I was okay. The judge took a deep breath, smoothed his robe. He looked at Tmain, at Valencia, and then at Attorney Cromwell. "Mr. Tmain," the judge began with a quiet but terrifying voice. "That video is the property of your daughter and was recorded in your own home. Do you still want to insist that it is manipulated?" Tmain raised his head, his face empty. She set me up," he muttered, a last pathetic attempt. "That woman, Valencia, planned everything. She seduced me." Hearing this, Valencia screamed immediately. "Liar! You told me to do it. You told me you would marry me. You told me you would transfer all the money to my account. I did all this for you." "Silence!" The judge banged his gavel again. "Both of you are the same. Your confessions have already been recorded in the court record." He turned to Valencia. "Miss Valencia, you sat on this stand under oath and gave false testimony. You used your professional credentials to destroy a mother's life and aid in a crime. You not only violated your code of ethics, but you committed perjury before this court." The judge looked at Attorney Cromwell. "And Attorney Cromwell, did you know, or should you have suspected, that the evidence you presented, including this testimony, was false? You tried to provoke the witness in the last trial to fit your client's false narrative. You have disgraced this profession. I will have the Ethics Committee revoke your law license." Attorney Cromwell bowed his head, unable to say anything. Finally, the judge looked at Tmain. His gaze was so piercing it seemed to flay the man alive. "Mr. Tmain, you enter this courtroom demanding justice. You accused your wife of failure, accused her of instability, demanded her assets, and most heinous of all, demanded to separate a child from her mother." The judge lifted Tmain's lawsuit file and held it up. "Let's review your lawsuit first. The accusation that the wife failed and neglected the home. Proven false. The video just demonstrated that you conspired to defame her." The judge threw a sheet from the file to the floor. "Second, the accusation that the wife was financially irresponsible and wasteful. Proven false. The video is a confession that you stole money from your joint account and transferred it to your mistress's account. This isn't just defamation. It is theft. He threw the second sheet. Third, the accusation that the wife was emotionally unstable, backed by false expert testimony, proven as a blatant scheme. The video proves you conspired to provoke your wife, record her in secret, and use it to deceive this court. He threw the third sheet. Your entire lawsuit, the judge's voice rose, is a pile of garbage based on lies, greed, and adultery. The court dismisses entirely the divorce petition presented by Mr. Tmain. The gavel struck hard, but the judge wasn't finished. He looked at Attorney Abernathy and me. The court will not stop here. Based on this new irrefutable evidence, the court rules to protect the victim. 1. The judge raised a finger. Full custody of the minor Zaria is granted unconditionally to her biological mother, Mrs. Niala. I gasped. The tears now flowing were of relief, pure cleansing. I looked at Zaria. 2, he continued. Mr. Tmain's divorce suit has been dismissed. However, the court suggests that Mrs. Niala file a countersuit right now. Mrs. Niala, do you wish to divorce your husband? Attorney Abernathy whispered to me. I looked directly at Tmain, defeated, his head bowed. With a trembling but firm voice, I said, Yes, Your Honor. I demand a divorce right now. Good, exclaimed the judge. The court grants the divorce to Mrs. Niala on the grounds of adultery and fraud by the husband. Full custody to Mrs. Niala. 3. The judge stood up. Now, all assets in the name of Mr. Tmain and Miss Valencia will be frozen immediately. The court orders a full investigation to trace all funds stolen from Mrs. Niala. The house currently occupied is declared total property of Mrs. Niala and Zaria. And 4. The judge's voice now resonated throughout the room. Based on the video evidence and the confessions in this room, I order the immediate arrest of Mr. Tmain and Miss Valencia for multiple criminal offenses, including conspiracy to commit fraud, perjury, domestic theft, and tampering with evidence in a court of law. Take them away! The security guards immediately handcuffed Tmain. The man who had entered that morning with arrogance was now taken out with his head bowed. He walked past me. He didn't dare look his wife in the eye. Valencia was also handcuffed. Her screams dried up, leaving only a puffy, messy face. She was dragged away. Her career and her freedom were gone. I was still sitting, trembling. Attorney Abernathy smiled from ear to ear. We won, Nala. We won. I couldn't speak. I simply stood up and walked slowly toward the center of the room. Zaria ran toward me. I knelt and hugged my daughter tightly, as if hugging my savior. I cried on her small shoulders, not tears of sadness, but tears of a mother saved by her little heroine. The aftermath of that judgment day spread like wildfire. The story of the broken tablet made headlines everywhere. The greedy husband, the fake psychologist, the 7-year-old heroine dominated local news for weeks. The first few weeks were a blur for Zaria and me. Attorney Abernathy handled everything. By order of the judge, all of Tmain and Valencia's assets were frozen. The investigation proved Tmain had transferred nearly $1 million to Valencia's account over the last year. All the money was seized and returned to my new account. Our big, cold house was now officially mine. But I couldn't stay there. Too many bad memories. Too many shadows of Tmain and Valencia in every corner. With Attorney Abernathy's consent, I sold the house. The proceeds were more than enough to start a new life. The punishment for the villains was swift and severe. Given the overwhelming evidence, Tmain was sentenced to 12 years in prison for fraud, theft, and perjury. Valencia, whose psychologist credentials turned out to be real but criminally used, was sentenced to 8 years, and her license to practice permanently revoked. The cunning attorney Cromwell was immediately disbarred by the Ethics Committee and faced criminal charges for his participation in the conspiracy. Karma had been paid in full. 3 months after that judgment day, the laughter of children echoed in a small green park. I watched Zaria on the swing, the weight of worry finally gone from my face. We had moved, not to a big house, but a modest, cozy 3-bedroom apartment. It was full of photos of just the two of us, and it smelled of the cookies I'd baked. I'd started a small catering business from home. My culinary skills, which Tmain always belittled, were now praised by many. Orders were coming in. I was busy and tired, but happy. I was independent. "Mommy, look!" Zaria ran toward me, her hands dirty with soil. "The flowers are going to bloom soon." I smiled, stroking her short hair. Wow, my daughter is very good at planting things. We sat side by side for a while, enjoying the afternoon sun. There was a question I hadn't had the chance to ask calmly. "Princess," I began softly, "can I ask you something?" "What, Mommy?" Zaria looked at me with her clear eyes. "The video on the old tablet. Why? Why did you record it?" Zaria was silent for a moment, as if remembering. "Because I didn't like Auntie Valencia." "Why didn't you like her?" "Auntie Valencia pretended to be nice. Smiled at Mommy and talked to you at the mall. But when Mommy went to the bathroom, she told Daddy, 'Your wife takes too long.' And in the park, too. She saw me, but she told Daddy that Mommy wasn't watching me. But Mommy was watching me." I was amazed. My little daughter was a sharp observer. "And that night," Zaria continued, "Daddy said he was working late, but I heard his car come back. I wanted to show Daddy my new drawing. But when I went down, I saw Daddy come in with Auntie Valencia. Daddy hugged her right away. I got scared, so I hid behind the flower pot. So I recorded there. Yes, I used the old tablet to record. I remembered Mommy said that if there are bad people, there must be proof, and I had the old tablet with me." My heart warmed. I had forgotten I had said that. "But Princess," I asked, this was the most important question, "why didn't you tell Mommy? Why did you keep it a secret?" Zaria interrupted herself, her voice low. "Daddy said Mommy shouldn't know." I frowned. "Daddy told you that?" "Yes. In the video, Daddy told Auntie Valencia, 'My wife is stupid. She won't know.' Zaria thought it was a big secret because Daddy said Mommy shouldn't know, so I kept it. I didn't want Daddy to get mad if Mommy found out." It was the pure, heartbreaking logic of a child. She had aggravated her father's crime, but she had kept it secret because her own father had told her mother shouldn't know. "So why did you show it in court?" "Because the judge was going to take Zaria away from Mommy. Daddy said Mommy was bad. And Auntie Valencia also said Mommy was bad. And that's not true." Zaria had tears in her eyes. "I don't want to be separated from Mommy. Mommy isn't bad. Mommy is the best mom. So I had to show the judge that Daddy and Auntie Valencia are the bad ones." I couldn't hold back anymore. I hugged Zaria tightly, crying tears of pure joy. For all that time, I had suffered Tmain's accusations that I was a failed mother. I had doubted myself, felt utterly destroyed. But before me was the strongest proof that I hadn't failed. I had raised an incredible daughter. A pure, sharp girl who could distinguish truth from falsehood. A brave girl with the courage to act alone to protect her mother. A girl with a pure sense of justice. "Thank you, Princess," I whispered into her hair. "Thank you for saving me." Zaria hugged me back. "I love you, Mommy." "I love you too, Zaria." I undid the hug and looked at my daughter's bright face. Finally, I understood. I had never failed. I had just been raising a heroine. And now, both of us were free for a new beginning. What would you have done in my place, watching your husband and this woman try to destroy you? Have you ever had to dig deep to find that strength? Tell me what you think in the comments. I really want to know.